Congratulations, Internet. You've blown it all to hell! Greetings, people of the Internet. I'm Scott with Serkworks Art Labs. Welcome to the underground laboratory where we create robots, alien zombies, and other imminent threats to humanity. And a lot of times we do those in ink. And typically around this time, I'm doing that too because it is October, which means it's Inktober. Now, I have done Inktober the past couple years successfully, and this year I am not participating, and there's a few different reasons why, but one is that there is some drama surrounding it this time around, and a lot of artists have already talked about this and weighed in on it, so I figured I would just put my 2 cents in and kind of explain why I'm not participating in Inktober this year. So let's get to it. So it is October, and I love this time of year for a number of reasons. One is Halloween, of course. I'm a big fan of Halloween. The other is Inktober, and I've just been watching my Instagram feed, seeing all the just awesome artwork coming out for Inktober. And but for me this year, I'm a little more of a spectator because I am not participating, and there is controversy surrounding it, or was. It may have died down a little bit. But for me, and that's not the main reason why I'm not doing it, but I did want to discuss it. But it does kind of, put sort of a negative spin on things that, that I didn't want to talk about. But the main reason is I'm super busy. October has never really been a good time for me to take on an art challenge. Just timing wise, it's really not a good month for me, but I've done it the past 2 years successfully. I've completed the challenge in the number of days, and pretty happy with the results and everything, and it was really fun, and I encourage other people to do it. But as I said, there's a little bit of drama surrounding it this year, and it kind of spun out of a statement that Jake Parker made in response to a question that he got. And I assume if you know what Inktober is, you know who Jake Parker is. He's the creator of Inktober, and it's become just huge. It's just blown up and probably become bigger than him, but he was the originator and everything. So somebody asked him, can you participate if you do digital inks? And he said, I'm paraphrasing, I'm not going to read his statement verbatim, but he basically said, you can kind of do what you want, but the spirit of Inktober has always been traditional inks because, when you put down an ink line, it's pretty much permanent. You don't have that, fallback as far as your undo, digital undos and things like that. So, but a lot of digital artists, I think, were upset by that, and they felt excluded. So here's kind of my take on this whole thing. And let me start by saying that I am mostly a digital artist. I know if you watch this channel, you may not realize that, because a lot of the stuff I do on the channel is my comic book, which I just opt to do traditionally, at least right now. That may change in the future, but a lot of the work, the way I make my living, mostly is traditional art. At my day job, that's almost all I do, and even my personal projects. If you go to my store or whatever, you see the things that I market and I sell. All my prints, most of those were created digitally. The products that I'm putting out right now are digital products. I started moving into even selling digital products. So I am a huge proponent of creating work digitally, just like I am creating work traditionally. And for me, and I think Jake Parker's kind of in the same boat. I mean, I think he does a lot of his stuff traditionally. But to me, there's something about doing work traditionally, kind of going back to the basics. And to me, and I didn't create Inktober, so I can't speak for, Jake Parker or anything, but if I was the creator, I probably would have, I could imagine me being in a scenario where I'm doing all this digital work, and it's like, you know what, I want to kind of go back to basics. I want to just practice doing digital work. So I want to create a challenge that just centers around, I'm not digital, sorry, traditional. I want to create a challenge that goes back to just, creating work with actual ink, because in this digital age, that's not really the norm as much anymore. So it'd be nice just to, create this little, challenge that has to do with that. Now, this may not be his intent, but that's kind of that's why I was drawn to Inktober. Just to get away from digital for a little bit, just for a month. Because the other thing is, you have to, if you're going to create a challenge or something like this, and this is kind of the main topic that I'm trying to get to. If you read, if you read the title of this video, is that if you're going to create a challenge, you have to set some form of rules. Otherwise, it's not a challenge. I mean, think if I was going to create, if I was going to take on the one, or there's a 3 marker challenge out there, but instead of using 3 markers, I'm just going to use my whole box of 72 markers. That's not in the spirit of the challenge. If I was going to do March of Robots, but instead of drawing robots for a month, I decided I'm just going to draw hamburgers, or mermaid. And I'm not going to draw mermaids, I'm just going to draw landscapes. Or there's another, there's all these challenges. There's the 30 characters in 30 days, but I'm going to take that challenge, but I'm not going to draw characters. I'm just going to draw technical illustrations of vehicles or something. I mean, that doesn't make sense, and it just kind of ruins challenges if you're going to kind of make up your own rules. And again, I think this is all for fun. You have to take that, you have to take that into consideration. This is, and you can do whatever you want. There's probably these rules with the challenge, and if you want to stray a little bit or whatever, that's fine. As long as you're working, you're drawing, and you're improving, I don't think the creator of Inktober or anyone really has a problem with that. But as there's still that spirit of Inktober, and I think to me the whole charm of Inktober is doing traditional inks. And when I look at stuff on Instagram, if I see something digital, and I might not, and sometimes you can't tell, I'll be honest. We've got to the point where sometimes you can't tell the difference, but a lot of times you can. If I see something that looks digital, it's like, that could be a cool piece of art or whatever, but something in me, it's like, I think the spirit of Inktober should be traditional. And it's not because I have anything against digital, of course, I've mentioned that before. But it kind of goes back to, we are in the digital age. We do things mostly digital, so it's nice to get back to basics. So if I was a big music aficionado and I wanted to create like a vinyl music club, because we listen to our music all digital, so there's something special about listening to music on vinyl. So I create this vinyl records club for anyone who wants to come and get together and listen to vinyl records or whatever. And somebody comes on, I want to join your club, but I'm going to listen to all my music on my MP3s. Well, that's not really in the spirit, because the digital stuff is sort of the norm. It's doing something a little different and something specialized, I think, and I think that can be applied to Inktober, in my opinion. The other thing, if you're big into classic cars and maybe you built a classic car, or you have a classic car, and you want to create this club for classic car owners, and then somebody just buys a brand new 2018 Corvette off the lot, and he wants to join your classic car club, but that's not a classic car. So you can go on. I think for instance, if I wanted, I'm just going to throw out other examples just to hopefully prove my point. But, again, we're in the digital age. We do everything digitally. We're always on the computer, on our phones, everything. So, and there may be a challenge like this, I don't know, but if there is or if there isn't, I don't know. But say if I wanted to create an unplug day, where just one day a year, you totally unplug from the internet, you don't use your phone, you don't use I know it's scary, isn't it? You don't use your computer, you don't use anything like that. It's just an unplug day. So I decide I'm going to create this unplug day and invite anyone just for one day a year not to use any electronic devices, and just kind of go back, experience it the way it was before cell phones and internet and all that, just to unplug. And then of course, maybe I get before this happens, somebody emails me and I want to, this unplug day is coming up, I want to participate, could I just hashtag it unplug day, and I'm going to live stream the whole day. Well, obviously that doesn't make any sense at all. So I think when somebody creates a challenge, I think you should stick to the challenge in the way it's set up. for me, that again, that's what drew me to Inktober, no pun intended, is the digital aspect of it, because I do so much traditional stuff. It's nice to just step back and do something traditionally. And again, you can, and Jake Parker stated this too, you can do whatever you want, but he created that as a way for him to get better at traditional inking. And I think a lot of digital artists out there, some people that start digitally and that's all they've done, they've never actually done traditional inking, and I think it might be just a nice change of pace for just them to try that. I mean, if you do both, if you do digital and traditional, and you decide, well, I'm just going to do it digital because it's quicker, and maybe I don't have, like me, my biggest problem with October is it's just not a good month for me. I don't have the time to do October usually, and I've done it before, and it was difficult, but I completed it and everything. So if you want to take the challenge and do it traditionally, you have every right to. I mean, there are rules, but there's no one stopping you from doing things. And as long as you're improving, there's not a problem with it. And there's no prize at the end. You're not going to get disqualified or anything. And I think people are just arguing for the sake of arguing for the most part. So, you can do whatever you want, but I still think the spirit of Inktober should be traditional inking. And again, I didn't create it, so I'm not the one saying it, but that's what kind of drew me to the challenge. So, and there's some other things that were brought up when kind of that statement was put out by Jake Parker, and just people finding any little reason to put up a fuss about it. So like some people were saying that I can't afford to do digital inking. And at first I wasn't really sure what that meant, because the barrier of entry for traditional work is usually a lot less expensive than digital. I mean, to buy a tablet or a computer or all that stuff, but I can kind of see where they're coming from in a way, because if you've already invested in all that and you already have it, and somehow you have that set up already, and maybe times aren't great for you right now, you can't buy more traditional mediums. I guess I can understand that, but to me, I mean, it seems like in most cases it's the other way around, where I can't afford to do something traditionally because I can't afford to buy a tablet or whatever. But so that one I'm not too sure about. But if that's the case, then sure, you can do it digitally or whatever. But what is the cost of a couple ballpoint pens and some copy paper? I mean, it's practically free. So that complaint kind of baffled me. But so there was another grievance that somebody had with Jake Parker's statement. Some people were saying that they had disabilities that prevented them to work traditionally, so they had to use traditional, and they were basically saying, oh, so I can't participate, sort of an accusatory tone. And obviously that's not the case. I mean, that's just common sense. If you need some aid to help you complete something, there's no problem with that. And there was never a point where I don't think Jake Parker said that, no, you can't do that. No one would say that. That you're just getting to the point where you're nitpicking and you're being petty by doing that. I mean, because that is just obvious. I mean, just because something doesn't state exactly, something in the rules like that doesn't mean that you're excluded from it. You can't figure every single scenario. I mean, if you buy a lawnmower, there's all kinds of instructions and warnings telling you the things you can't do. Don't stick your hand in the blade and things like that. But if somebody want to take a lawnmower up in a plane and get a parachute and jump out of the plane with a running lawnmower, and that lawnmower, they lose control of it, and either hacks them up or flies through the parachute and chops it up, and you plummet to your death. You can't go and sue. Well, you can sue for anything in the United States, but you have a pretty slim case that if you die, if your family members are suing because it didn't say on the instructions that you can't take a lawnmower skydiving with you. I mean, that's just ridiculous. So just because it doesn't state anything about disabilities, you have a disability and you need something to help you with that, of course you can do the challenge. And there's no prize for this thing or anything. But there are certain rules, and in certain cases, and there are exceptions, and that would be one of those exceptions. You can, if you need that, I mean, if you're a marathon runner and you need to use prosthetic limbs because you know, you don't have legs, there's nothing excluding you for participating in that marathon. Now, if you have the ability to run and you're using something to enhance yourself, that might be different. But you know, these are special circumstances, and there's no one ever, you know, saying that no, you can't do that. So I just think that was kind of, you know, ridiculous, and I feel sorry for those people. Not because they're disabled, but because it's confounded by the fact that maybe they don't have a lot of common sense either. Because I mean, again, that's just being petty and accusatory for something that was never stated in the first place. So ultimately, in closing, you know, my opinion is this. I mean, you can do whatever you want. Art is art. Art is fun. Art is your way of expression. If your expression is traditional and you want to do Inktober, or if your expression is digital and you want to do Inktober digitally, you have that right. There's no, you know, laws, but there are some rules and some guidelines, and I think you should respect that. And if you want to do it digitally, fine, but don't get upset because, you know, it was created with the intention of doing traditionally, you know, and you know, in my case, I mean, it's sad that I'm not participating this year because I do like Inktober, but October is just not a good month for me. Like I said, I mean, Halloween, I get big into Halloween. Plus, I've got my family has like 10 different birthdays, so we're always, you know, having parties and everything, and it's not a good month. So that being said, what if I decided, you know, I can't do Inktober? You know, October is just not a good month. So, but I'm not going to go email Jake Parker and say, why do you create Inktober in October? Don't you know it's a bad month for me and it doesn't work for me? And that's not fair to me. Well, you know, I don't have the right really to say that. I mean, I can, if I wanted to, I can just do my own thing. I can, you know, if I wanted to do Inktober, you know, next year in November, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll just call it Mocktober, and you know, because it's not as hectic for me to do it in November, and maybe for me that'll work. So maybe I'll just do all my Inktober drawings in November, call it Mocktober, and kind of that be my own thing. But I'm not gonna, and I have every right to do that, and you have every right to do Inktober traditionally, but maybe that's not the spirit of it, and you know, I just don't think you should complain or just put up a big stink about it. So anyway, that's my opinion. So are you doing Inktober, or are you doing it traditionally, digitally? You know, let me know. As you can see here, I am doing a traditional ink piece, and I'm having fun with that, even though I just can't do the whole challenge. But I've done it before. And also, you know, some of these people that are complaining, I'm curious how many people that are complaining because it's digital and do the challenge anyway and kind of fade out after a week or so. They put up all this fuss and then they don't even complete the challenge. I'm curious how many people are like that. I would venture to say it's probably a good portion, because I think a lot of people, they don't even, you know, it's not even the art to them. It's just a matter of complaining and just, you know, just basically kind of being what the internet has become, which is just a lot of trolls and complainers and things, and probably a lot of them don't really care so much about the art, because I think if you're focused on the art, I don't think you're going to care about all these little formalities and things like that, and you're just gonna create for the sake of creating, and you know, and I think that's what you need to do, and as long as you're improving, that's great. And you know, so you know, this whole thing, I really do think when you pick apart a challenge like that, whoever creates a challenge, if they make a challenge, and if they say, this is kind of what had in mind for the challenge, and you decide that, you know, that doesn't work for you, you're going to complain about it. I just, you know, to me, that's not what art is about. I think you should be creating and not complaining, and, you know, haters hate and creators create. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts on Inktober and art challenges. What do you guys think? Do you like participating in art challenges or Inktober? Are you doing Inktober this time around? Are you thinking maybe I'll do it next year? Let me know in the comment sections, and we'll create a little conversation. We'll hopefully keep it civil. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. That is all. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me here in the Art Lab. There's a lot of other great content on the channel, so click that subscribe button and you won't miss a thing. If you're an aspiring evil genius, visit Serkworks.com for all your mad science supply needs. And if you want to contact me, hit me up in the comment section or follow me on social media. I'm looking forward to it. I'll see you then.